right, who's here? Cody. All right, how we doing? Enzo. Very good. Yes, first comment. Good to see you on here. Enzo. How we're doing? Excellent. So, here we are, Tuesday. I didn't go live yesterday because Monday what I decided to do was, because I didn't get a chance on Sunday, is I made a load of shorts for YouTube. So that's what I did on Monday morning, which was pretty cool because I got a good sort of like angle and setup for it. So I just shot a load of those. Took about an hour. And then I've got something to post for the next sort of 3 days. Yeah, rocking the Boba Fett shirt. Enzo. Cool, innit? What do you reckon? Yeah, you gotta... You see, I make up about, more than 1/3 of the picture that you're looking at, so it kind of makes sense to actually wear something that's a little bit groovy, Yeah, I did. So, I've been just getting into the shorts actually, just as a way to sort of attract a few more people on who are into guitar, because I'm like focusing in on guitar at the minute. Having said that, I am aware of one of the number one problems for guitarists, and that's actually making music to play on, and that's why I have a coaching group for that. Which is different from learning software. It's about finishing music. Yeah, so just shorts. And then some of those will go up on Instagram. Yeah, because we have to practice guitar so much. Oh, yeah, it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? Guitar. Which is, yes, I've been stocking up on some books lately. And scattering them about the place, so I read them. So that's two things that I'm thinking about. Well, I'm not thinking about. One of them's definitely going to happen, and the other one's a little bit more tricky. So first thing is one of the lives, and it's going to be next week, I think, is going to be, because I need to advertise it, so I'll advertise it over the weekend. So I'm aiming for Monday morning to be about making short, or maybe Wednesday evening, making short pieces of music for basically shorts and Instagram. So, and this is going to be like just sequencing, using virtual instruments, that sort of thing, but being able to like knock something up really, really quick. So that's one thing I'm going to do. Because I really like doing like a short bit of music, playing over it and recording it on video, and then and then quickly editing it, and then you've got content. I quite like doing that. So I'll show people, and it's pretty kind of simple really what I do, but I'll show everybody what I do, because I think that'll be a good thing, and it's a good start. Doesn't solve the bigger question and problem of actually just writing music and finishing music, but it's certainly a good start, and a good way to start building your channel. I'm the man, yeah. So I haven't forgotten about technology. In fact, I'm surrounded by technology, and I'm using it more than I ever have in a kind of connecting way. But yeah, we're gonna do that. So the one thing I think is the number one problem for guitarists is actually creating their own music to play over. Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because that's the vehicle, and then you can plonk yourself on top of it, and then it's wheels, and it's off you go into the virtual world, doing stuff. But I tell you what, Spotify is hard. Like releasing music, right? If you're going to do it properly, right? I mean, McRocklin and Hutch. I mean, this is like the interesting thing, right? I do think McRocklin Hutch, what we do in our field with Shred, with the two of us and the synths and all that kind of stuff, it does have it has its own sound, okay? So therefore, if you've got your own sound, people will pick up onto it and playlisters will get onto it and you'll get promoted for free. Like McRocklin and Hutch, there was a couple of tracks where they just kind of jumped out at the time and Spotify playlisted them. And we got up to the top. We had New Retro Wave. We had what's he called, Mr. Suicide Sheep as well. So we had some big playlisters, and we regularly get playlisted now. But you know, the other thing. So, and that's quite quirky, and it has its own sort of fan group. But hey, now going into the commercial world, different thing altogether. What a fight it is. So, with Freakstar, right? So we released, like, this is a bit of a legacy project. That was my old band from the late 90s. And so we released the first track, right? And we decided to go down the route. Well, we'll get promotion for it. And we did everything that you're supposed to do by the T. So the first thing is, you know, you've got to pay to be played, or it's just like it goes up, right? Okay, if nobody's heard of you, it just goes up, and there's just nothing, right? That's the first thing. And then what happened is, as soon as it went up on YouTube, bearing in mind this is a track, right? Bulletproof was a track that was recorded in 1998 in my room, and PRS and ASCAP, and it's logged, right? The writers. And like literally within hours, there was a random copyright strike on it. And that'll be to do with the algorithm, the AI. And then the copyright strike, normally it'll tell you which bit is infringement of the music, and it had the entire thing. Well, that's just ridiculous, isn't it? You know, so if you do catchy pop, right, you're going to set off the algorithm. That's the first thing. So fine, doesn't really matter about that, not bothered about YouTube. So we'll release it on, you know, the usual 150 digital platforms, right? And then Spotify went, so all the playlisting was done through vetted playlisters. And then we also got this really reputable company doing, they're not really focusing on Spotify as such. So we did the playlisting, and we used, like, you know, Spotify for artists and we use like all verified playlisters, okay, and on one submit. So that was all fine. They all seemed good. And then, you know, into this promotion, which we paid like a ton of money for, Spotify say we're taking it down because there's been some like dodgy activity in the promotion of this track. So so then Spotify then within 48 hours actually took it off Spotify. That DistroKid then pulled it down, I should say. So honestly, you cannot win. So then I've had to put it up halfway through a promotional campaign. So it is very, very not wanting to put anybody off, but it is very, very difficult if you're doing something super commercial, catchy lyrics, you know, the thing. And you haven't got, it's just like, it's a right nightmare, honestly. But apart from that, if you're doing something that's obviously like totally unique and got a niche audience already, you're all right. But this is all like AI algorithms that are catching me out. It's not like human beings. But a very interesting experiment. I've learned quite a lot from this, to be fair. But yeah. And it's amazing, suddenly the people who kind of come out of the woodworks wanting to promote you. It's just, you're like this dead carcass in the wild that everybody's feeding off. If you get my drift. But anyway, back to guitar. Oh. back to guitar. What is the number one guitar problems we're facing today, do you think? Has anybody got anything that they want to talk about in particular? Or I'll just start kind of saying stuff. This is always something I can talk about. Just getting my guitar light on. So have a think. Because somebody. Do you stretch your hands before warming up? No, just like literally just get out of bed with freezing hands and then come crashing into this live, which is my warm up for the day. That's the answer for that. But yes, you should. You should realistically spend a little bit of time warming your hands up, but I just warm them up in the playing. Know your limits and play with them, and try not to get injured. I mean, I do a lot of playing. I do a lot of playing on acoustic guitar, and I'm stuck in that situation for a good while. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be a musician who's got a job that's really decent. Really supports me as an artist, and the things that I want to do creatively. But I'm committed to it now for inevitably a very long time. 20 plus years. And, when you're thinking about, okay, like, this is your job, right? It has been all my life. I'm starting to think about, I need to not get injured. So there's a real plus to this. It's because you just don't take any shit, really. That's the first thing. But the second thing is, you start really thinking about, well, I want to play the way that I want to play. But I want to do it in a way where I don't get hurt. And then that just makes you think about technique and economy and playing lightly, because you want to conserve all that energy. So that kind of thinking about the long term has really, really helped me, because it's just, I spend more time now thinking about planting with the pick, thinking about left-hand technique. In fact, I'll show you what I've been working on. And that's why, that the people who notice I've got a bit of technique, it's literally, I'm just practicing it because I want to conserve my energy now. I want to conserve I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to, I just want to keep playing because I love playing, and I have to do a lot of playing. I mean, today I'll do at least 4 hours, and most of that will be like sat in front doing some sort of a performance, and every time I perform, I'm able to practice something. It's brilliant. And I'm able to review what I'm doing multiple times in the day. So that's really good. So I'll show you what I have been doing, which is painfully simple, and the sort of latest mission that I think that I'm on. And I'll also tell you about a book that I'm getting. I have to remember what it is, though. Just make sure I can find it on Amazon. Right. So, so the book that I'm getting, okay, that I've got on order is, hold on. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Oh, I can't. There we go. So, yeah, the book that I'm getting is this. Can you see that? So, Line Games by Randy Vincent. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. it's a book about improvisation, and it's a book about, well, it starts off about using hexatonic scale. It goes into inside, outside playing, and like loads of like really cool stuff using chromaticism, and it builds into it really, really nicely. So his stuff looks really, really good. I've been watching like a few things about it and reviews on the book, so I'm getting that. It isn't tablature, by the way. It's like proper music. It's like a grown-up book. But I'm going to get it, and I'll do like the first bit of it, like chapter. And then what I was thinking, because I think books are really important, and who here would be up for this? What I fancy having is a study club on Zoom, right? So the way that you're going to find out about this is I'll set the call up on Discord, but probably like once a month I'll have like, well, depending on how it goes, like a little study club, and eventually it'll be something that you'll pay for, like monthly fee, but it'll be absolutely brilliant. And then what I'll do is I'll just go through the book. And those of you who've got the book, you don't necessarily have to have the book, can do the exercises with me. But that's the thing, is I need to have some time for study where I can actually sit down with the book and completely like really focusing on it. Got plenty of focus time for everything else, but not apart from that. I mean, to the point where now I've got duplicate copies of things, one at work, one at home on particular things, that books that I really, really like. But yeah, I thought like a study club. So just, let me know. Join the Discord and let me know if you're interested. I'll put a message up on that, but I need to know who's going to be interested, really. And then we can do it, because I don't want to be on there on my own studying. Looking at myself. Be depressing. So hand stretching, I'll just quickly flick through these. Are modes major scales numbered in contrast to the key being played? Well, you use a numbering system 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Simply because the numbers don't change. If we use letters, then depending on what key you're in, then the letters change, don't they? So it's just more processing. So an interesting thing is, I know like Thomas and myself, we don't think of modes, right? When we're playing, it's like minor, right? Everything's minor and occasionally major. And the reason for that is because when you think about it, when we're improvising, you're chunking all the time, so you're getting everything down to the least amount of information. So that's why that's like that. And then the other thing, the numbering system, is because it's the least amount of information to think about intervals, okay? Because we've only got to think up to 13, all right? And it doesn't matter, it's not key dependent. So that's like the first thing. But if you think about the scale as the folder or the thing, modes are just like a subdivision of the scale. So the scale's the big thing. The modes aren't a separate scale. The modes are something. They're a subdivision of the scale. Okay, so that's the way you think about it. So effectively, if you learn one scale, you know the modes. So I have modes. So for me, the modes are a good system of classification. So when we're learning modes, we need to know like what they're used for, what potential sounds can we get out of them, so Phrygian, like dark, Metallica, Spanish, those kind of things. So it's a good way to think of the classification, but not something that like I particularly get obsessed about as a mode. It's just this, if I want something dark and Spanishy, then I'll know, all right, well, probably I'm going to use Phrygian, so I'll use that, but then I'll be thinking of it in its key. So, if we're in A minor, then I'm going to be thinking like E minor for the Phrygian mode, but within that scale set of A minor, if that makes sense. So that's how I think about it. So all the time, because you need to be thinking on your feet when you're improvising, you don't want to be thinking at all, but if, and any thinking that you do, you want to be chunking everything down. So that's a really good question, actually. But I mean, this is the thing with like books. You'll get like books where they have like a mode concept, and then they just fill it up with the scale. or scales of each mode, and it's unnecessary, because what you need is you just need the framework and the scale, and then and a classification of what the subdivisions are, and effectively you know them all. After that, it's just you working with your instrument, and that's the best way to do it, because that's how you're going to visualize things, that's how you're going to hear things, and everything that you're learning needs to be in your brain. So the least looking at paper and having paper dependency, which I do see happen quite a lot, the better it is into your head. Everything needs to be off the page into your brain and getting processed some way, and that's the dance. So just remember the process of how, when we're learning things is, at first, when you're learning new concepts, it's going to be prefrontal cortex. It's going to be like, it's the front of your brain, very, very tiring. It's the least developed part of your brain. It's information hungry. It's energy hungry. So you get quite tired very, very quickly. But the aim is to get all of that information out of that part of your brain and into your older brain, the instinct brain, where you're doing all of this stuff without actually consciously thinking about it. And that's where you want to be. And that's the dance between the prefrontal cortex and your older brain, whatever that's called. I always stretch for good timing to good solid rhythm hand. All right, cool. You're going to learn to practice. If you're going to learn to practice, you need to be warmed up and on point, or it makes learning harder. Some playing sport, kickboxing, we always, So it is important to warm up. You gotta do a few exercises. I'm going to show you some stuff in a bit. Us playing sport kicks, won't we always need to warm up for ages? Sometimes you don't have a lot of time. I think, one of the problems we have isn't enough time, all right? And when we don't have enough time to do something, I think it's potentially quite dangerous, right? Because then we think, well, I haven't got enough time, so I'm not going to bother doing that thing. And when it came to making music, I used to be like that. I used to be in the belief that basically, in order for me to make music, that I would need a full day, right, to do something. I'd have to have hours, and the weekend would be booked out, and then I would think, great, and then I would just have really disappointing sessions, which I would have great expectations on achieving so much stuff and not achieve any of it, and then the time would run out, and then the week would go by, and then it would be the same. I'd have little bits of fragments of time, none of it was organized, and that was quite frustrating, till I realized, actually, if you focused, if you have a regular practice time, a regular music making time, in other words, a minimum viable commitment, right? It's amazing how much time how much of little time you can make something happen in, so time's a really important factor, but also practicing to make the most out of small amounts of time is super important. And that's what, that's why I joined flow groups. That's why I ended up getting coached, and all these things that happened back in 2014, which were absolutely kind of life-changing. And then I had this wonderful thing of basically, I only need 5 minutes to do music, because basically I ditched my big studio and got a laptop, and I could always lift the lid, switch it on, and off I would go, and I'd be making music. And it was just a wonderful thing. And I was organized, so even if there was just 5 minutes to do something, because I have a system of how things are organized, I could just open the laptop and think, right, well, I'll just mix the drums and I'll give myself 5 minutes. And then you get this thing of beating the clock. So immensely productive doing that. And a great way to get into flow. And the same with guitar, you have all these little pots of time. So it's good, if you've got an exercise or something you're learning, that can be the warm-up exercise. Really, really helps as well. So I always keep the warm-ups, usually relevant to something that I'm learning. So that's another thing. I don't do a separate warm-up. Now I do my practice, nor do I do practice where I have to play certain things, now I'm going to do 10 minutes to God, or now I'm going to do 10 minutes picking, now I'm going to do that. I don't do that either, because sometimes you don't want to practice and you just think, oh, I can't be arsed with that, and it's like running through mud. So I think, and I'm always listening to interviews of guitar players, right? And one thing that I stumble across, people who are great, amazing, like Tom Quayle, for example. I mean, he talks about, the biggest gains he ever gets is when he's doing something that he's really interested in. So whatever you're interested in, if it's legato picking, some kind of chromatic thing, that's the thing, and you warm up everything as kind of based around supporting the learning of that, because you're really, really into it, till that dries up, and then something else kind of comes along, and then you pursue that. And that's definitely the way that I've found stuff. The other thing is, like, all of these things that I've ended up getting into were simply, I got into them because I needed them. There was some sort of like deficit in my playing that I wanted, or a hole I wanted to plug, and it would all lead to like my connection with the world, how I wanted to present myself, what my music wanted me to do. So it tends to be like, where my style is and what I want to do with that is why I learn certain things, if that makes sense. My brain's still waking up. Right. Good morning, Hutch. I'm here. Catch a little of the live again before bed. Brilliant. Greetings. Hi, Steve. And anybody on here, if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel. Would be amazing. Oh, and give a thumbs up. I saw that one the other day. I'm going to jam nights, live bands. That's where you really, hear guitar playing's fine. Excitement, yeah. So, like, other guitar players, other musicians, other ideas are great. All of that sort of stuff's brilliant. I mean, my main sort of point of contact with that sort of reality is the lives with Thomas, and we don't really know what we're going to be doing when we're doing them. So it's a really good testing ground to see where your skills are, and that's like one of my main review points is that live. And I tend to go through the lives and watch my playing with forensic detail. It's like a crash scene, and I'm the investigation team, and I'm looking through all the wreckage, putting it all back together and seeing how I can make it better. So yeah, recording yourself, being able to see yourself back play is brilliant. Like, that's really good. Not to repeat. Very cool. A book club for guitar. Yeah, a book club for guitar. Enzo, what do you reckon? So I'll pick the book. You wouldn't necessarily need to have the book, but I'll pick a book, and then I'll just kind of go through the concept and explain it. And then we'll all learn from the book, and it'll be amazing. I mean, obviously, right, something like that book that I've picked, what was it called? I can't even remember. Oh, the Line Games. So for something like Line Games, a lot of that's going to be like very sort of like heavy jazz, and I'm not necessarily wanting to kind of totally get into that. But I'll be getting into like all of the stuff that I know is going to support what I'm doing now. So there's a good section on hexatonic stuff. Chromaticism, enclosures, all of that. I'm going to see Dream Theatre this Friday here in my hometown. That'll be a good gig. That'll be excellent. We'll enjoy that. Sorry at all. Do you recommend parallel modes or relative modes? I recommend all modes. reptilian brain, that's the one. That's where we need all the stuff. Learned and crystallized memory. Yes, that's a similar thing like what I'm talking about, basically. Same as if I'm not into what I'm doing, I won't be receptive to it. Yeah, because the thing is, Enzo, right? If it's like, oh, I've got to do this, oh, I've got to learn all my modes, and like, it's just it's just a weight, isn't it? And you just think, what a drag, and then you're in denial, procrastination, don't want to do it. And what we have to do is we have to do the thing, right? But we have to do it in something that's manageable. And also, our brains like to have fun, so it's just human nature. It's got to be fun, and if it's fun, you're going to want to come back to it, even if it's challenging. So this is the important thing. And to be fair, like everything I've learned, as a producer has been completely transferable back into being an instrumental player, and these are all the things I did, when I was making tons and tons and tons of music and releasing it. It's the same mentality that's going on, that like now I'm like, well, I want to do guitar for a bit. I'm applying that same thing. But I'll check that out by Rick. You see, it's the same thing, isn't it? Because I think we get obsessed. Well, I know we get obsessed with the results, and it's the same with guitar playing. Like, all right, if I learn all the melodic minor modes, will I be guaranteed these results? And it's going to be hard, and it'll take ages. Whereas actually, if we just think about enjoying the process, the results just become a symptom then. Oh, it's really cold in here. So Enzo, yes, you got to be receptive to it. These are great questions. This is a great chat. I am going to play my guitar in a minute. And very important, all of these things, because this is the thing. This is the stuff we all share. This is the daily battle, isn't it? We're faced with. How do I go about getting into the creative mindset? So, getting into the creative mindset, what I simply do is I just do the very thing. I just do the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. I sit down. I don't have to be in the zone. I don't care if I'm in the zone. Okay? Everything I do is a habit. I just sit down, and I know, just like everything, like this, coming on this live, I'll just sit down, do the work, and inspiration will come. And I love that story about the Greek gods. Okay, so the Greeks had their inspiration gods, their creative gods, were called the Muse. They're all women. And basically what the ancient Greeks said is that if you sat down and you did the work, you'd be rewarded with the ideas, and that is true. So I know, like, sometimes with music we think, oh no, it's music, it's my free time, all this kind of thing, and I need to be into it, I need to be into it, and it's just nonsense. What you have to do is you have to sit down. I don't, and people who I coach, we don't wait for inspiration. Inspiration comes. When you start waiting for inspiration, it's never going to happen, But as soon as you sit down, I can guarantee good stuff starts to happen without a doubt. That inspiration, flow, all that good stuff will definitely happen. Today I got up, switched the lights on, got ready for the stream, totally not inspired, back of my mind thinking, oh, shall I not bother? Why don't I just quit? I get all of that, dragging myself to it, totally uninspired, setting everything up. And then basically I'm on here and I'm inspired. We're having just a wonderful conversation. I'm learning loads about it. And I'm excited, and inspiration has hit, and I'm really up for this discussion that we're having. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you're prepared to sit down and do it, you'll do it. And the other thing that I find every single time when I sit down and do music, when I sit down on these lives, is I always say to myself, I'm glad that I did that. I always come off better than I was before. I'm always in a better place. So always remember that when you sit down with your guitar, you're always going to make some progress. And another thing that really helped me was, that book, Atomic Habits, and it talks about the British cycle team and how the British cycle team became elite and the best in the world, right? And like the way that they think of it is they're just trying to make 1% improvement in everything that you do. And we can all do that every day, that 1%. And in a week, we can be 7% better in theory. So every time I pick the guitar up, right, all I have to do and all you have to do is to do whatever you're doing 1% better. And that is it. And you're going to gain, because it's a long game, this, isn't it? And over the long term, it's going to happen. So in short, in fact, I have this whole game that I sometimes play with my coachees called Design to Discovery. And like one of the questions like on that is you have to change these statements into a discovery one. And like one of the design ones is, I don't do music unless I'm inspired. And the answer to that is, I do music, inspiration will come. So I hope that helps. And anybody interested in joining one of my coaching programs, do send an email. The email is in the description, and then we can have a chat and a free Zoom call with me. And then we can talk about your music career and what you want to do and if it's a good fit. And I can tell you all about the coaching program because there's some really, really cool stuff. And you learn about this thing called the automatic music making machine. And it's a way to just be able to see all of your ideas and process them and get them finished. Brilliant. And it's a very similar system to Rick Rubin. So I hope that answers that question. There's a lot more to it than that. I mean, there's all the sort of tools and techniques that I have to make sure that I'm inspired. So when I'm working on a project, I always make sure that every session I have like 3 kind of goals or 3 things that I'm going to be doing on that project, which really, really helps as well. Because to be inspired, when we being inspired, and what we're talking about is being in flow, basically being embodied in the thing that we're doing. Time dilation, making decisions effortlessly, and all this kind of stuff is the things where we're in flow and we're in the zone, man. And we can get that whenever we want. It's not, you can have flow multiple times in a session. You can be in and out of it all the time. And I recommend reading a book by Stephen Kotler, which is probably the easiest one to read, rather than the Chicks and Me How One. But Rise of Superman tells you all about this. And I spent a while actually just with a group of us experimenting with using what you experienced in flow as a precondition to get into flow. So that's why I have this clock here. It's because, okay, I'm not into it. I'm going to write some music, and I'll just flick that timer on to 10 minutes and go, I'm going to beat the clock. I'm going to write a track in 10 minutes, and I go for it. And sure enough, I'm in flow. And that is because flow, to be in flow, it likes us to have something to push against. It likes a goal, and it likes a deadline. And time is one of the time dilation and time compressing is one of the things that we experience. You always remember as a kid playing a game with your friends and it was over really quickly, or when we're doing a gig and you play your first song, you really feel the first song, it's hard, and then the time you get into it, and then the time just disappears whilst you're in the performance. And this is flow, and that's what we want to be doing. And we can have flow when we're practicing guitar. We can have flow when we're writing music, even though you would consider music to be a very, very thinky thing. It's not. We can be in flow. We can treat it, everything that we do, as this performance. We can be in that self too. So that's a really good question, that one. Did you get a chance to listen to the new... No, I didn't. I'll put it in the car, I promise. Be creative. You got to have something you want to say. Not necessarily. you could be searching to find something. Again, I wouldn't wait to say something. What I would do is I would start making the music and then see what happens from that. You have something to say when you, I mean, when we think about music, when you analyze music, there's a thing that I use called PAFs, and what PAF stands for is purpose, arc, thing, hooks, and space. And these are all the elements that you need to make that you preferably you need to have in music to make it, great. Okay. And purpose is what you're talking about, having something to say. It is the story, but sometimes we just don't have a story. So you just start making the music, and images and stories will start to happen. And when you have a purpose, for music to be really good, what I tend to find is when you've got that idea, that manifesto for your music or for a body of music, it gives you something to hang all your decisions off, and you've always got something there. It's not like you're just dealing with blankness. You can always go back to the purpose and reflect on it and write music to that. And when all of your ideas kind of connect to this purpose, what you'll find is the music will just sound more solid, more together. But what I would say is you don't have to have something to say to start. You can just start and allow the purpose to happen. That starting and creative and picking the guitar up and strumming, it's a way of kind of getting into the flow of it, getting into the subconscious where all the good stuff is, and all of the kind of films and stories you've been reading, the books and life experiences are, and then some of these will randomly pop to the surface and you'll think, well, there's a good story. I like the idea of that. And you write it down. Again, back to the coaching group, like games we've played in the past is where we're writing just a line, like as a chapter of a book, and then writing music to that, or doing very short timed 5-minute stories. They don't even have to be good. It doesn't have to be amazing. But if you just use the hero's journey as a framework and write a quick story and then start writing music to that, that's a great way to start. But if you don't have that, it's okay to start writing music. Another interesting thing is, because of the nature of how I do things within the automatic music machine. So we'll have, like, say you do a splurge, right? And you might have an intentional splurge where, splurge is just making a piece of music without any judgment. But you might start, I have this story, and then you splurge, okay? And then you kind of, what happens is you don't listen to it for 7 days and you come back. And what you may find is when you hear that music, a completely different purpose comes to mind, and that is perfectly fine. Then you just use that new purpose. So the purpose within a composition, as it's going, it's perfectly okay for that to change. What you don't want to do is then become really slavish over a purpose that you have to reflect that very, very thing, and it can't change, but the music has to. That's kind of quite difficult to do, and the problem with that is it becomes design. And the problem with design is it's result focused. So this is the thing I'm trying to achieve, and then you go in a straight line to it. And what that stops is all the wonderful subconscious ideas that kind of come into our heads, and you think, no, that's not to do with this thing that I'm designing towards, I'm moving towards. Sorry to point to the camera, but it's important. That's not to do with this design. I'm focused on this thing, even though these ideas are absolutely, like, could be amazing. What I always do and always suggest people to do is to explore all of those ideas, because we're always moving forward. It's just we'll veer off the road, okay? And some areas we'll explore, we'll hit dead ends, but we're always aiming towards that design. And then what we'll find is that way we're definitely going to make something that's more unique than we would have before. And it's also essential in exploring, who we are and who we are as artists. Our sound, you can't just think of it and then go, that's unique, and do it. It's like, it's something that you incrementally put together from experience. And the only way to get that experience is to, write as much as you possibly can, and to be open to explore all the ideas that kind of come into your head. And just to end on that, so one of the techniques I'll use, called the avalanche method, is where I'll start a session and I might have 3 ideas, and I'll do the first one on the list. And I know that first thing on the list, whether it's right or wrong, and this could happen at any point. It could be when you're starting a splurge. It could be like when you come back in for your second session, at any point in a session, right? Coming back to your music, I'll have 3 things, and I'll do the first thing on the list, right? But what happens is other ideas will start appearing in my head, and I do all of those ideas. Why? Because I know those ideas are come from that first thing on the list, which came from a phase of analysis. And where does insight come from? Insight comes from a phase of analysis. Okay, like when we're learning to improvise, it's analysis, isn't it? We're learning something, we're very conscious of it, and we're trying to fit it into our playing and in different contexts, but then what actually happens, back to the crystallizing brain, is that we start using these things in an insightful way, and that's what you want for your music making. You want to be using things in an insightful way. Right. So, Paul, I hope that kind of gives you. I mean, it's great if if you've got to have something to say, that's okay. But that's how I find the process. And so, look, I learned all the modes in my teens. I'm now 40, and my brain works much differently. That may be true, but I would say that the older we get, the more logic we have. And I don't think. I mean, I would say I would learn things quicker than I do when I was younger. I just, a lot of things I did when I was younger just wasted time. That distracted. Your brain's weird. I couldn't even tidy my room when I was a teen. There was like lots of things going on growing up that were equal distractions than potential kind of being old, right? I don't really buy into that old thing. I think you can learn to do something at any age. And I think the older you are, the more logic and the less time wasting you have. So effectively, I have a much better environment to learn in, okay, which completely enables me. So I couldn't say that. I mean, I'm learning, and I'm learning more than I've ever done. And I think that's the other thing is, I'm not saying this is kind of you, Enzo, or anything like that. But this is another thing I come across as people. I'm too old. And it's just nonsense. You can't think like that. Like 40's young, you've got another that's like you've got another double that more to live through. And there's this great book, Mastery, at Green. And you've got people who are die and they're still learning at 90 years old. We can still achieve and we can still do things at any age. And I think a lot of things that we have, we just believe that is the truth. And actually, Enzo, I would say, I would challenge that. I would challenge that by learning something new. Genius comes from genius, a guiding spirit, much like Jinn, which possesses and inspires. Well, that sounds good. I think I'll have some of that. All right. Hey, this is I like this. Genius or exceptional brilliance was historically linked to being possessed by a higher or otherworldly force. Yeah, I mean, I read that as motivation. You find something in life and you just move towards it. I mean, I'd definitely say I'm obsessed with music to the point of being possessed, without a doubt. Now, I'm not saying I'm a genius here, but it's not quite normal how I go on. But there's a reason for that, and the reason that I'm so obsessive about music comes from my childhood. I have, and I've mentioned this many times on here, that I have severe dyslexia, and my whole schooling was a miserable train wreck, apart from the fact I learned to do music. Until I was diagnosed, and then picked an instrument up, and like people thought, wow, he's got good really quickly. Something's going on here. He's not stupid. I was labelled as a stupid child, and it's incredibly damaging. That obviously I'm going to stick to the one thing that I'm good at, and actually music completely re-educated me to the point of, I left school and then I went straight on, missed the whole degree thing because I was too advanced by the end of it, and I went on to 2 master's programs that were like funded for scholarships, and that's simply because music re-educated me, because I had to learn all the skills that I struggled with at school. I relearned because I needed them to learn certain things that I wanted to do in music, but that whole thing was awful. And because of that, I'm very obsessed on this one thing. So I think, well, you only have to be good at one thing in life, but you've got to make it work. And that's been the thing with me. I've like obsessively hit at it. Like there's been no other option. I'm like, somehow, music's going to be the thing that I'm going to make my money at. And I know that's not for everybody, and it's not an essential thing. You can like sometimes just having something that isn't music related, a day job, can really help, because you become more aware of the time that you have and more structured around that, and that can also be a real plus. And the other thing is, just because you got a job that may not be music doesn't mean that you're not a professional musician at all. I wouldn't say, like if I had to go get a job stacking shelves or something, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm a shelf stacker. I'm still an artist. I'm still a musician. That's my soul, and that's my heart, and that's what I am. And that's how I would describe myself. Genius or exceptional, right? But I like that one. So, right. I was a bicycle racer. I know exactly what you mean. Thank you. Yes, that 1% improvement. British cycle team removing one screw out of a bike that they didn't need to make it lighter. Washing the hands, hand hygiene, so there was less sickness. Making sure that the windows in the hotel rooms were blacked out and no light could get in, so to ensure better sleep. These are all the like little 1% improvements we can make. I was feeling very depressed the other day because a car mishap, and I sat down to write some music about it, but felt better from playing and wrote something positive because of it. Brilliant. And that's what music's about, isn't it? It does help. Think you're right. Just get working on something and let it flow. Absolutely. But what I always say when I'm coaching, right, you need to have a minimum viable commitment, right? So I'll tell you how it is, right? Okay. What I'll say is, imagine your life depended on writing music. If you don't write music, you'll die. Okay. You're going to make sure you write music. Okay. Now, but the catch is, you can spend as long or short a time as you want, okay? But you have to do something every single day. So that's your minimum viable commitment. Now, my minimum viable commitment for writing music, I write music every day, right? And my minimum viable commitment has been down as low as 5 minutes. There have been times where it's been that low. I remember when I first started doing this, the process, my coach said, right, well, your head will fall off if you don't do it. How long can you spend doing music? I went, 2 hours a day, right? All right, fine. Off I went. How was your minimum next week? How was the minimum viable? Oh, I missed sessions. I couldn't do it. Basically, it started off well, then I missed one, and then I got demotivated, I missed another one, then I got back and kind of got another one. It was just patchy, complete mess, right? And then other times I just didn't bother because I didn't have 2 hours free. Okay, this is the thing. And he went, well, he explained it, and he went, lower it. So what do you think it should be now? And I lowered it to half an hour, which I thought was realistic. And we both thought that was, he went, oh, that's good. And then off I went, did it, and then missed it. And then it was down to 15 minutes. And then later on in my career, it went down to 5. But then it can go up again. But the point being is, when you have 5 minutes, there's always time to do something. That's the thing, and it totally different. And amazing things have happened in 5 minutes where I've just suddenly made an idea. And I think, oh, this is great. I can't wait to get back to it. And then that's the energy, isn't it? And then you're doing all the things that you do in the day, and you just want to get back to that computer with the excitement and finish this idea. That's what we want. So minimum viable commitment. So it's like, it's, you know, but you want to make it a habit, and this is really important. So when we're doing a habit, very, very briefly, you need to have some sort of trigger. My lives are preferably a habit. Okay, my lives are a habit. So if I miss a live, I think, oh, really crap. But the reason I do my lives, okay, one of the main reasons that keeps me going here is it's part of my daily routine. Okay, I get up and without even thinking, switch all the lights on, switch the computer on, because it's a habit. And if I don't do it and I've not replaced it with something else, I feel I'm like, oh crap, because I'm so used to doing it. So you want to make a habit, and the trick to making that is to have a trigger. So my trigger is getting up. And what I would suggest to anybody who really wants to get gains at doing music and stuff like that, you want to get better, you're getting frustrated, spend some time doing whatever it is, the most important thing that you want to practice, whether it's making music, going for a run, lifting weights, yo-yo, karate, music, guitar playing, do it first thing in the morning. Okay, that's when you want to do your heavy structured lifting, because your tension span's at its height. It makes sense, and it makes you feel great. When I do these lives, nothing's a problem during the day. I go off and I'm really nice and happy to everybody. I'm not a frustrated artist because I've done the thing that was the most important thing for me to do, for my well-being and for all that kind of thing. And our mental health is really, really important. So I can't recommend getting up in the morning, but either way, you can pick your own trigger. And then the second part of it is when you finish doing the thing in your minimum viable commitment time, if you feel like continuing, continue. Just keep going. Okay? But when it's finished, make sure you finish on a high. Make sure when you can feel yourself going, oh, I'm running out of ideas, or I'm getting tired, or whatever, just end it. That's not a problem. And then so you're feeling good about it, and then give yourself a reward. I always go for a walk around the park with the missus, holding hands, looking at the ducks. And that's my treat. That's my reward. That just ensures that what I've done has been a good experience. It's also a great time to reflect on one's music career, looking at some ducks. So, you know, that's my kind of top tip, and apply that to anything that you really, really want to do. And it makes you feel like you're taking it seriously. You feel like you're in the game. When I started doing this, kind of getting up in the morning, making music, I was making music. When I did my first release, I suddenly realized that, wait a minute, I'm an artist. I'm actually in this for real. And it was I'm a producer. It was a wonderful feeling. And I would love everybody to have that. But you do have to put a little bit of work in, and you do have to make a commitment. But I can assure you that once that commitment becomes a habit, it just becomes like something you do, like brushing your teeth. It's not a problem, and you can apply it to anything that you do in your life and become amazing at it. And of course, after you've done your minimum viable commitment, if you're still excited, you can come back and do some more practice, but you don't have to be as structured. You can just start playing for leisure or working on the thing you were doing or whatever. You'll find that it's like super powerful and motivating. It does help. I think you're right. Just working on it, right? Okay. I will never copyright my music. I'd rather people see it and play it anywhere. Fine. It's publicity. It is. Having said that, so Freakstar, there's the famous story, we turned down the Levi 501 Twisted advert. All right. So I don't know. I think like having your stuff copyrighted might be a good idea. That's another story. Very quick story, actually. We thought we were going to be mega famous, and if we'd actually done the Twisted advert, that basically we would disappear and nobody would be interested in the band once the advert ran out. Like Still Skin, Babylon Zone, those guys. So I don't regret the decision. AI will tip your channel for a strike. In regards to learning, my note selection is much, much better, and I like when I'm playing much better. My hands are slightly slower, though I do learn a little differently. It didn't come out right. Okay. I've got something in a minute. I'm going to have to get that guitar right. Super chat, $20. Thank you, Steve. That's brilliant. You're a great coach. Thank you for sharing your wisdom anytime, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about sharing and making the world a better place, however you can do it. So, no, that's brilliant. Thank you for that, Steve. And again, anybody who's here, like, subscribe. Okay, now we're on for the painfully simple thing. What comes in for the warm-up exercises. And not 100% sure how I'm going to do this, but I was watching Brett Garsted play the other day. And he was doing some of his chromatic stuff. And I noticed... Oh, God, this guitar's loud. And what I noticed was... Turn myself down a bit. All right, okay. And what I noticed is how he was playing his chromatic lines, okay, part of it. And there's obviously more to it going on in his brain, but this is what I picked up when he was just doing an impromptu bit of a shred, right? Is that what he was doing? It was in A minor, conveniently for me. Now, when we play the E minor scale, 3 notes per string, okay, we get this, don't we? Now, if you go to my modes thing, it'll give you all of these in A minor, but I'm hoping everybody knows it. But anyway, you've got all these positions going up, and then what he was doing is doing the fusion version, where you're filling in all the gaps. Oh, there's Chili. Hi, Chili. So this is great, because for me, this has been encouraging me just to really double down on getting the dexterity going in all of my fingers and working on that kind of legato. So basically what you're doing is you're filling in all the gaps, okay? So in the first position, that's all chromatic. That's all chromatic. So the first 4, pretty easy, all chromatic. And then the last 2, we've got this little gap. So 3, 5, 6, 7. But the trick here is the control that Brett has, is that timing. You know, like nothing's done sort of throwaway. So it's all about the timing, okay, and then keeping the balance of your legato even. I'll just go up to this position. So this is a G major position, which would probably be more identifiable for people. So what we've got here is we've got first finger. So if you look at your G major scale, so I'm assuming everybody knows that, right? What we've got here is first finger. If you don't, I'll play it slowly, right? Well, anyway, just say in the chat. We've got our first finger, second finger, and we're filling in the gap chromatically. Our third finger, fourth finger. That repeats on the next string. We come up a fret. Got our 4 notes there. Repeating that on the next string, jump up a fret. Now, the cool thing about this is it's the timing, okay? We've got to make this feel like it's got a 16th feel, not like pause and a gap, right? What we're trying to do, essentially, is play this and almost disguise. The goal of it is to disguise the string changes. And this helps us a lot with like picking, with hybrid picking, because one thing you have to do is you have to disguise the sound of your pick if you're using your pick. So, in other words, you're wanting the pick to be the same velocity. So if I'm playing a scale straight up, that's almost like swybrid picking that I do. I'll pick the first two strings. And then the third one is a hybrid. Pick. Hybrid. Pick. Oops. So that's how I get up. And the idea is like just disguising that. But also I'm keeping the time feel, okay? And these very strict groups of 4, where there's no real gap. So it doesn't matter how you're playing it, you just play with the pick. And then turning it round is a bit difficult, so because if you're counting, it's easy to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 1. The 1's on the third finger now. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the time feel in your hand changes, and that's the important thing. It's not coming down with this odd grouping. With the 4 fingers still on the 1, it's actually the third finger now is on the 1. So this is like the essential bit to get that smooth. And I just think this is a great like warm-up exercise, because it's been really getting me to double down on the dynamics of each finger. But the cool thing about it is it gives you all of these chromatic options. So I'm kind of programming my brain with like potential chromatic possibilities that I can use in an improvisational thing. So not only is it a warm-up exercise, an exercise where you're visually learning a scale, but we're also it's helping our improvisation, it's helping our visual memory. You can come up with like little lines like that, but the main thing is just keeping that time feel, because that's the thing that's going to make it sound more professional, more pro. Okay. So any questions on that? Because I think it's a really important bit, and you can just start like simple, right? Something really simple. Just maybe it's just. And we're just focusing in on making sure the dynamics are flat. We've got good angles on our fingers, because that's another thing I notice is when I'm not. It's a bit like when you're playing your guitar, like the setup eventually goes, and then you got to get it set up, but you don't realize you just play it till it's like in the ground basically, and you can't go on anymore. It's the same. What I'll find is like with legato is I have to keep pulling myself up, because sometimes my fingers will get flat. And actually having the tips of your fingers is essential, because that's how you're going to be able to play really lightly. You know, and not spend loads of effort, you know. So also when you're playing this, there's the time feel, but how hard do you actually have to hit those fingers into the frets? Now, I understand that some people might like the pull-off sound, and sometimes I quite like that. But I think it's... I much prefer just to brush off the string. Just sounds smoother to me. Oh, did you go through circle of fifths exit? Did you do the typical run through the... No. When I was very young, I wouldn't even remember how to do it. But I remember doing it as a very young guitarist. Oh, there's Hippie. Hi, Hippie. How you doing? Good days. Hope you're well. Just got home. What did I miss on the stream? Chat about creativity, forming habits. There's all sorts of going on as well. It's been a bit of a talk show today. But I've just sat down with the guitar. We were talking about warm-up exercises, but I was just showing everybody just like how you can contain chromaticism in your scales. Obviously, like warming my hands, it's like really freezing in here. So, a teacher used to make me do, yeah, I mean, all open position. Jeez, well, yeah, that's hard going. I think it's like I wouldn't practice something like that. I only practice things that are like that are going to creatively enable me in what I'm doing, in my limited world, you know. So for me, chromaticism's like quite a big part of my playing now. But it's also like really, really challenging, you know. It's like remembering all the enclosures. And where to use them in the way that I want to use them is quite tricky. You know, I've got to sit there and kind of work things out a bit. But they sound great. I love stuff like that. Sounds just brilliant. But yeah, just anything like that. Those little enclosures are great. Yeah, so like that was a nice, like you mentioned, Tom Quayle. I love the approach. Yeah, so Tom's stuff's like I find it really heavy going, but really good. I dip in and out of his stuff, and like Jack Gardner's like really brilliant. Like things like Tom Quayle's got quite stretchy hands, you know, and like, you know, I keep coming back to this. Now, not so long ago, I didn't have a hope in hell of playing that, so it's just it's almost like a quartal harmony thing anyway. I just think of it like a pentatonic scale, but that's what, like position 5, start of E minor, starting on the 5th string. But I was talking about this the other day. This is like the importance of this. Got me kind of working on the stretch between the 1st and 2nd fingers, which is something I overlooked. But this sort of thing, I'll just take you through it. So E minor pentatonic, we're going D, E with the 2nd finger, and then 3rd finger, and I'm picking those first two, and then a hybrid, and then we've got to kind of hammer onto there. Pick, hybrid, So we're picking second finger, which is now on the 7th fret, hybrid on the 8th fret, third finger, and then picking 5, 7, 10. So pick, hammer, pick, hybrid, hammer, pick, hybrid, and then we'll pick all the way down. So this is why you want to kind of, because it's auto disguising the pick, and you want it dynamically to be sort of the same as everything else. That's great. You can do a little jump up for that bit because it's a hammer on, but you have to have the pull off there for that stretch. And this has been the stuff that actually has got my hand stretching. And I mean, my hands are much more stretchy than they were when I was a teen, and a lot of it, it's doing this stretch between like the 1 and 2, which is something I overlooked. You know, like other things to do are sort of like which is another thing that I'll play. But doing that stretch there. All right, here. I like to incorporate chromatic stuff in my music. I remember the 90s seeing an interview with Dimebag, who was a big advocate for it. Cool. I did live Q&A university with Mike Stern in the early 2000s. He lectured on the same stuff those guys teaching jazz improvisation stuff. Brilliant. Mike Stern's pretty cool, isn't he? I mean, I'm not turning into a fusion person, but I am starting to like it. There's spiking my interest all the time. Is there a possibility for you to have a guitar tab on your screen during live set? No, because that would mean I would have to prepare, and I don't. I mean, I do prepare now and then, but just not to that degree. I'm just like not. I'm a music coach, and the cool thing about coaching that I love is like it's not resource heavy, and I just haven't got the time to do that. It's like in my head. And I think, like, at the end of the day, all of this stuff is we just want to remember. People want to be using their ears as much as they possibly can. But I don't mind showing things slowly. But I hear you about the tabs. I just don't have the time. But if somebody wants to transcribe what I'm doing here, then that's cool. Or maybe one day I'll do a book. But a lot of it would just be plagiarizing other people's stuff, to be fair. So yeah, just again, anybody interested in being coached, send an email. Anybody not watching, not subscribed, please subscribe. And I'm on 13 likes. 13's kind of like an unlucky number. Can we get that to 14 so I can feel better? And not worry. Thank you. Yeah, I knew you would love the book club, because that's the thing, is like everybody will, I bet there's loads of people like me buy books, right? Think, oh God, like do page 1 and like, oh, I got no time. Oh, I gotta sit, like you just want to do, and then it's really difficult sitting down to do the book thing. There'll be loads of people like that. So I'm solving the problem, book club. Any meditation tips? Yes, I think the best form of meditation I've ever done before, anything I've done creatively, is like no guided, none of that nonsense, and just literally timing 5 minutes and focusing on breathing in through my nose and out through my mouth, feeling the rise and fall of my chest. That's it. and imagining the thoughts. Like the analogy I always say is, imagine you're standing on a train platform, and the trains coming in are your random thoughts, you know. So a train will come in, doors open, you just stand on the platform, you don't get on the train, don't get on the distracting thoughts, and allow the thoughts to go. Oh, that's all right, the wife's account. No worries, Tim. You're doing a great job. It's Kinsley, the guitar tab, possibly. You know, music dyslexic. Yeah, no. No. I can't do a tab. You're gonna have to watch the video back. Cool. Oh, look, I've got 17 likes now. That's brilliant. That's more like it, isn't it? So things that are happening. Evening. Tim says beautiful. Thank you. So exciting things that are going to happen this week is a Wednesday evening live stream. I've cleared the time out. I always resist a bit doing the evening ones. But yeah, we're going to be on in the evening, just like a regular stream like this, asking questions, chatting, playing. I'll have some tracks loaded up to play and what have you. But I'm just really interested in, you know, you guys having a voice and us talking about music, because I think that is the most helpful thing that we can do, and it's absolutely free, isn't it? And we can learn so much from each other. And have that inspiration, you know, finding out, you know, the whole key to success for me is just knowing what I want to do next. That's it. And then just doing it. You know, it comes down to something just simple like that, and you just keep doing it that way, and you kind of end up somewhere fairly interesting. Oh, I'm taking my son to see The Prodigy on Thursday night in Sydney. Hippie, you're a cool dad. That's 10 out of 10 on being cool. What a cool dad thing to do. How old is your son? Oh, we love you, Tim. Thank you, Enzo. Wear a Pat Metheny shirt. No, because like Pat Metheny wears his shirts. I'm gonna, you know, I'm not like. It's a thought. He's 17. Brilliant. That's such a cool thing to do. It'll be a great dad-son evening out, won't it? Like, my daughter keeps wanting to go to gigs with me, but it's all like in a club. And I'm like, no, you're too young. I'm not doing that. And it's always like, because she likes 4am crew, which I do. I think 4am's great. And like, she go, can we go see that? They're coming to Newcastle. I'm like, no. It'll be rough. We can't go there, Poppet. Because it will be 4am crew if you hear them. I can just tell you what kind of gig that's going to be like. But I would like to go to it. Oh yeah, it'd be really good, Hippie. Like Liam Howlett's so cool. Like he was an influence on me, Liam Howlett. Like Liam Howlett, Junkie XL. You listen to old Freakstar stuff. There's a big, and some of those songs, there's this huge Junkie XL kind of Prodigy influence in my stuff. And I actually had, back in the day, I had 2 W30 keyboards. Like he had 2 W30 samplers. We used to use them live. It's like I can't tell you how painful writing music was with them back in the day, but they sounded absolutely amazing. You had, you know, like just the memory was like the size of a floppy disk, basically. So one of the ways to capitalize on having short memory on the actual sampler was I had a record deck, and I used to record all my drum samples sped up, so I'd speed the record deck as fast as it could be, and then fire the sample, record the sample, fire the sample into it. That's what you do. You don't record, fire. Record the kick drum or whatever into the W30, and then you would truncate it, you would edit it to the smallest amount, getting all of your time back. And then what I would do is pitch it down, and that pitching algorithm that it had used to just make things sound really amazing. I remember it being described as your sample, when you would pitch it down, would sound like the sample, but it would have like fairy dust on it. It was great. And so I sold a drum set to a family for a child today, and it made me so happy to see how much he loved it. I know, it's just great. No, that's brilliant. And so, I love his stuff, right into brutal metal as well as Prodigy, Chemical Bro. Yeah, all of that Junkie XL, early Junkie XL is excellent. It was Big Sounds of the Drags was the album that got me into it. Because I remember when Big Sounds of the Drags came out, it was in Future Music. It was reviewed in Future Music, and I thought, all right, I'll have a listen to that. When people used to buy magazines. So if anybody remembers those days, a magazine. So, I think I'm just about ready for my walk. Woolworths. Oh God, I miss Chile. I miss Woolworths. I used to love Woolworths. In fact, Sharon's band, right? When you were onto something big, when basically we found her album in the bargain bin for 50p in Woolworths. I was just like, oh, we made it. We're in the bargain bin. What do you remember? The Woolworths bargain bin. Oh. Could we have another advanced chord lesson? Yeah, I'll have to dig out some. Yeah, Wonderwall. We'll do Wonderwall. It's got a minor seventh in it, and it's got a C9. You got to use your forefinger. I remember Hit, Parada, Circus, all the regular magazines. Hit, I don't remember that one, but I do remember Guitarist, Guitar Player, Guitar World. Which one did I like the best? It was the one where Paul Gilbert was a columnist. Didn't like Guitarist much. I liked Future Music and Computer Music. I used to get both of those. I used to spend tons of money monthly on magazines. I love my magazines. Yes, you were knocking around Sunderland in the 90s electronic scene. My cousin told me all about it. He said it was mint. Yeah. So my first band, DTI, was like, it was shred metal that was confused with like me then wanting to make it like have rave stuff on it. Yeah. So heavier. Those were the days. So I used to have like, it wasn't an M1 piano, but it was like an M1 piano used to be on like loads of my stuff. And we used to have those pitch bendy kind of melodies. It sounded cool. It was the start of me kind of doing my crossover thing, even back then. Tune to an open G and then just hyper tune to change the chords hand free. That's absolutely brilliant. Right, just do what Chili says. Guitar World. I think that must have been it. Guitar World. Where can I hear it? It's hidden on my computer somewhere. I don't know how it'd be funny if to like people to hear it. But we had songs like they all meant something in our ridiculous way. You know, and like we had a song about when your girlfriend cheats on you, and then the song, like the lyrics were like, "I know that she knows that we know that they know that she's been investing and he's been investing." Remember that line? And then just like, yeah. Happy Hardcore. I don't know if it was Happy Mind. I remember the good times going to Virgin Megastore HFA where you could discover, well, yes, those were the days, Chili, weren't they? I miss record shops. Ate My Girlfriend. It was a joke band. I like the title. Anyway, I'm going to have to go. It's my time for my morning walk. I can see the missus getting ready. And I'm now. It's time. All right, guys. So next stream will be Wednesday evening. See you then. Bye. Oh, and like and subscribe if you're just new here.